Imagine this for a moment. You're in a city, and your reality is shaped by a constant, silent threat. Not just shelling, but the very personal fear of a sniper's bullet.
Hmm.
That was life in Sarajevo from 1992 to 1996. It was the longest siege of a capital city in modern history. And snipers, in the hills, they were targeting anyone, civilians, even children.
Just trying to live their lives. It's an unimaginable level of terror. And during those 4 years, over 10,000 people were killed.
And for this deep dive, we are focusing on a really, really disturbing allegation that came out of that siege.
Yeah.
Something called the Sarajevo Safari, or sniper tourism.
The very name is chilling. It's this allegation that wealthy foreigners actually paid Bosnian Serb forces for the chance to, well, shoot at civilians for sport.
It sounds like fiction, I know. But this is not just some dusty old story. It's now the focus of a major active investigation.
Right, happening right now.
Milan prosecutors have launched a probe, and they're aiming to identify Italian citizens who might have been involved. The charges are incredibly serious: voluntary murder, aggravated by cruelty, and what they call abject motives.
So it connects this horrifying past to a very real, very present legal battle for accountability.
Okay, so let's unpack this. We have to get into the specifics of how this alleged safari was supposed to have worked.
Well, the testimony and the documents describe what is essentially a commercial transaction, a grotesque one.
A transaction for murder.
Pretty much. The allegation is that these groups of sniper tourists paid huge sums of money, probably black market cash, directly to soldiers.
Soldiers in the army of Radovan Karadžić.
Yeah, the former Bosnian Serb leader convicted of genocide in 2016. So this suggests it wasn't just a few rogue soldiers. The claims point to a structured service, something that was offered for a price.
So what did that price get you? I mean, was it just a gun and a spot on a hill?
It's the whole package. It was access, equipment, and protection. The money allegedly paid for transport up into secure military positions in the hills. Positions with a clear line of sight down into the city.
So they were being taken to the best spots.
The prime spots. They were given weapons, maybe some instruction, and then they could just shoot at people trying to get water or find food.
Yeah.
It was buying the opportunity to participate in violence as like a recreational activity.
Okay, this is where it gets really twisted. The motivation, this is what sets it apart from, the violence of war.
Right.
Ezio Gavazzani, he's the writer whose research really pushed this new investigation forward. His claims about the motive are, well, they're staggering.
He is very clear on this point. It's what makes the whole alleged crime so uniquely horrifying. He claims there were, and I'm quoting here, no political or religious motivation.
None at all.
None. The people he tracked, he says they were just rich people who went there for fun and personal satisfaction.
For fun, yeah.
He compared them to people who love going to shooting ranges or, go on big game safaris in Africa.
So the people in the city below, they weren't the enemy. They were just targets. They were the game.
Exactly. It completely reframes the act of killing. It's not an act of war. It's a consumer product, something you pay for and experience.
That must be why the prosecutors are using that specific charge, abject motives.
Precisely.
Yeah.
It strips away any possible ideological justification. It just leaves the cold, hard fact that victims were turned into objects for sport. The siege became a sort of perverse playground for people with, in Gavazzani's words, a profound indifference towards evil.
An indifference they were willing to pay for. And this wasn't just an Italian problem, was it? The investigation is focused on Italians for jurisdiction, but the allegations are much wider.
Oh, much wider. Gavazzani talks about many, many, many Italians, but his research also points to Germans, French citizens, English citizens, people from, as he puts it, all Western countries.
A truly international clientele for murder.
It suggests this opportunity was maybe marketed, through certain channels to people with the money and the absolute lack as a moral compass.
So for the Italian suspects specifically, do we know how they allegedly got there? What was the path from, say, Milan to a sniper's nest in Sarajevo?
The sources outline a pretty clear route. It seems they would meet up in Trieste, in northern Italy, which is right near the Slovenian border.
Okay.
From there, they'd travel to Belgrade in Serbia. And in Belgrade, they would be met by their Bosnian Serb handlers.
Handlers?
Yeah.
Ooh.
These handlers would then provide the final escort, driving them through the war zone and into those military positions in the hills.
That's That's incredibly organized. That's not a casual trip.
No, not at all. A travel itinerary that's sophisticated, it really suggests there had to be some kind of high-level military or paramilitary cooperation to make it happen. Gavazzini called it a traffic of war tourists.
A traffic of war tourists. So if some of this was reported back in the 90s, why is this big investigation only happening now? What was the final push?
It was a combination of things. A piece of media had a huge impact, and one person just refused to let it go.
That's Gavazzini.
Right. He says he saw the initial reports in the press back in the day, but what really compelled him to formalize everything was a documentary.
Oh, interesting.
A 2022 film called Sarajevo Safari by a Slovenian director, Milan Zupanic. Watching that film gave the old rumors a new weight, a new context, and it pushed him to take his evidence to the authorities.
It shows you the power of documentary, of journalism, to force a confrontation with the past.
Absolutely. And this isn't just one man's crusade anymore. The lawyer who helped Gavazzini, Nicola Brigida, says the evidence is well substantiated.
Okay.
And he thinks it could lead to a serious investigation to actually identify the culprits. And then he got another huge boost.
What was that?
The former mayor of Sarajevo, Benjamina Karic, sent an official report to the Milan prosecutors backing the complaint.
Wow, so that's official city backing. That adds serious judicial weight.
It does. It gives a huge momentum.
So let's talk about the legal strategy. You mentioned they're using domestic charges, voluntary murder aggravated by cruelty, not, say, war crimes at The Hague. Why that route?
That's a really sharp legal move. Prosecuting international war crimes, especially decades later, is incredibly difficult. You have to prove things like systematic intent, chain of command. It's legally very complex.
Right.
But by using domestic Italian criminal law, they can sidestep a lot of that.
They're essentially treating these people not as soldiers, but as, what, just murderers who traveled abroad to kill?
Exactly. They're leveraging a legal concept, universal jurisdiction, for really heinous crimes their citizens commit anywhere in the world. By focusing on aggravated cruelty and abject motives, the sport, the malice, they can ignore the political complexities of the war.
And just focus on the act itself.
The individual act of murder for hire or murder for fun. They believe that's an easier case to prove with the evidence they have, the testimony, the logistics, maybe even a financial trail.
That makes a lot of sense. It streamlines the whole path to prosecution.
And that strategy is crucial because this investigation has taken a turn. It's moved beyond just these anonymous wealthy tourists.
It's now reaching into the highest levels of politics in the region, which, that raises a whole new set of questions.
A very complicated set of questions.
Yeah, and that shift brings us to a complaint filed against the current Serbian president, Aleksandar Vučić. This has enormous implications.
It really does. An investigative journalist, Domagoj Margetić, filed a complaint against President Vučić directly with those same Milan prosecutors.
The same ones handling the Safari case.
The very same ones. So now you have a sitting head of state tied, at least by this complaint, to a decades-old war crimes allegation.
Okay, so what is Margetić specifically alleging? What's the claimed connection between Vučić and this sniper tourism?
Margetić's claim, which he says is based on evidence he posted online, is that Vučić was present at one of the military posts overlooking Sarajevo. Now, at the time, Vučić was a young volunteer with ultra-nationalist groups.
Right, his political history from that time is well known.
It is. But the key part of the allegation is that this specific post was one of the ones allegedly used by the foreign tourists and ultranationalist units for the macabre tourist safari, for shooting civilians.
So the allegation isn't just that he was in the hills, but that he was at that specific location, a place used for this alleged crime.
That is the critical connection Margetić is trying to draw for the Milan prosecutors.
Now, we have to be really clear here. This is an allegation. What has President Vučić said in response?
It's important to state he hasn't commented on this new specific complaint from Margetić, but he has, in the past, very strongly denied the broader rumors about him being involved in any fighting.
What did that denial look like?
In a 2021 interview with a Bosnian TV station, he explicitly denied ever firing on the city of Sarajevo. He's framed these kinds of allegations as political manipulation, stemming from the nationalist politics of his youth, and used to destabilize the region today.
So for the prosecutors, the challenge will be figuring out if his alleged presence, if it can be proven, constitutes complicity, or if it was just, a political fact of the time.
And that is a monumental task.
So what does this all mean for the case? You've got two completely different types of alleged suspects. You have wealthy tourists, supposedly motivated by sport, and a major political figure present as a young volunteer.
It just shows you how layered and complex the crimes committed during that siege were. The prosecutors are trying to untangle who pulled the trigger, sure, but also who paid for it, who facilitated it, and who was just there. But the goal is the same for both threats.
Which is?
To gather enough evidence to prosecute individuals on those specific charges, voluntary murder and cruelty, no matter who they are now.
So just to recap for everyone, we have two main threads here. First, the hunt for these international sniper tourists from Italy, Germany, France, England, people who allegedly paid for the fun of killing.
And second, this explosive new complaint that names President Vučić, alleging his presence at one of those same murder sites.
And the key, as you said, is that legal strategy, using domestic murder charges.
Yes, focusing on the sheer malice of it, the object motives. It's a clever way to pursue a kind of justice decades later that might have been impossible through a traditional war crimes tribunal.
You know, if we step back and look at what the source material is really suggesting here, it's a terrifying thought. That the siege of Sarajevo wasn't just a site of war, it accidentally created a market.
A marketplace for depravity.
Yeah, a space where the worst of human nature could be bought and sold as a kind of, I don't know, extreme tourism.
It's the ultimate corruption of war, isn't it? The idea that the suffering of a city, the death of its people, could be packaged and sold for amusement. It means you have to look at the wartime economy, not just for guns and supplies, but for experiences.
Yeah.
The experience of killing.
And that transaction, that act of paying money to take part in something that is defined by, again, that indifference towards evil, it's deeply unsettling. It moves the crime beyond politics into something purely psychological, purely transactional. And as this Milan investigation moves forward, you should definitely keep an eye on it. Because this story is far from over.